Oh, no fun. The Jen Kirkman podcast, episode 16. I am your host, Jen Kirkman. Oh my God. As a white woman, my fellow white women, you're driving me effing crazy with your Liz Cheney worship. I mean, white liberal women. If you're a white conservative woman, I would say she's a conservative that is probably better for you to worship than, you know, someone who believes in QAnon conspiracies. But I'm not talking to you people, the liberals, white women. What is going on? Are you so desperate to feel that you want a happy ending? Like this is the end of a Christmas movie where the Bumble from Rudolph was just misunderstood because he needed some root canals. And you're like, he's going to put the star on the tree. That's great. She's not the Bumble. She didn't vote against voting rights because she needed a root canal. She's a hardcore right winger. She's not even a conservative. She's a right winger. Remember when right winger used to be bad to us Democrats, to us liberals? Right winger was like, whoa, that is a pretty extreme views on things. Now, because of the literal crazy people that are primarying right wingers like Liz Cheney, they're so batshit out of their minds. And my apologies to everyone battling mental health issues for using words like crazy and out of their minds. You know what I mean. But people who think Joe Biden's running a pedophile ring, everybody knows he stopped running that years ago when it wasn't making him any money. I'm kidding. Guys, here's what I'm talking about. Listen, the way you talk about Liz Cheney, just be careful. Just be careful on social media. Don't go on social media with your feelings, with your fifis. Just go on social media with your facts. And if you want to talk about your feelings, then you must say, I'm in my feelings right now. And this is what I think. And this is the most eloquent way I can think it. But just don't write things as though they're true. Let me give you an example. This white woman was writing, you know, I'm so glad Liz Cheney had a change of heart. It's been amazing to see what she's doing with the January 6th committee. And she gives me hope about conservatives. And I think we all need to stand together. And it's like, you're saying two different things. You're saying there are two thoughts here. One is that Liz Cheney, in her role on the January 6th committee, is doing a great job. And it gives you hope. I think you're saying something else, but I'll allow it to give anyone hope that there are people on either side that care about justice and that aren't just about like, oh, let's put it behind us. Okay. Liz Cheney did not have a change of heart. Let me be very clear. Let me educate you about when you just kind of say things in a throwaway way. Liz Cheney, although I agree with her on absolutely nothing, and although she is a right winger, she was never in support of trying to overthrow the United States government in a violent coup. She was never in support of a president not allowing a peaceful transfer of power to the person that won the election. She was never in support of hiring fake electors to toss out the work of the real electors and to, you know, have a sham electoral vote count. She was never into someone intimidating people that work at voting places in order to get them to not do the right thing, which is count the votes that are going to add up to elect Joe Biden in that district. I mean, let's be very clear. She has always been against that. If you would ask her 5 years ago, is that cool with you if someone did that? She would say no.
Oh, hey guys, I'm Hallie Kiefer. And I'm Allison Livey.
And we have a podcast called Ruined, where every week we crack open a new and different horror movie to feast on the goo inside.
Oh, I hate that. And I hate all horror movies. But even though I'll never watch any of them, I always want to know all of the twists and turns.
And there's nothing I like more than watching horror movies and then telling Allison about them in gory, disgusting detail.
Ugh, no thank you. But also, yes, because this is the perfect podcast for scaredy cats like me.
And blood lovers like me. So join us for Ruined and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
She would say, I am a strict constitutionalist, and that is against the Constitution, and that is not American. That is fascism. No. So her work on the January 6th committee has nothing to do with her having a change of heart about anything. Her heart was always, she is against that kind of thing. And then we had Donald Trump do that kind of thing. And so she is going with what she believes and is trying to bring to light and figure out what happened, at whose behest, what recommendations can we make to the DOJ, even though that's strictly just a formality. But how do we, as a government, put this story together? Because if someone's trying to overthrow the government, I want to know who, I want to know all the bad actors involved, and I am against it. Okay. That's it. Don't give her qualities she doesn't have just because she's doing something that unfortunately is seen as extraordinary in her party. Hi, welcome to No Fun, the Jen Kirkman podcast. By the way, this is not a political podcast. And I'm not saying that in order to win the hearts and minds of both sides. I'm saying it because truly it's not. I record it once a week and oftentimes a week in advance. And you just can't. It's the same reason it wasn't a political comedian. You've got to be timely. Do you want to sit here listening to me go, well, last Thursday, the FBI filed a search warrant? It's like, yeah, we already know. He went to Mar-a-Lago. Please, okay, fast forward. This is boring. I already know. So I'm never going to talk about breaking news. But I will talk about, I guess, the socio-political, which is, what I'm noticing, patterns I'm noticing of how people are talking about things. So I just want to be very clear, use your language wisely. And I have to say this to myself too, because I am just babbling on a podcast and sometimes don't even remember what I say. But when you're on social media and you want to give credit where credit is due, and again, I think liberals love to do this. It gives them feelings. It makes them feel good. I love kumbaya, credit where credit's due. Let's all come together. But listen to me. Liz Cheney has always been someone that would be against this coup. It doesn't mean that she's a Republican you could vote for, that she is a moderate Republican or, center right, has a lot in common with Democrats. That ain't her. So what you want to say, you just want to say everything you said. I admire her for what she's doing, but she ain't had no change of heart. Now, I will give you this. She absolutely did something that takes, I think, some amount of, I won't say bravery, because I actually hate when people say that, because a lot of times for some people, people used to say that to me about stand-up, it's so brave to get up there. And I would say it's not, because if it were, I wouldn't do it. There's a lot of things that take bravery, in my opinion. Being a firefighter, going on a roller coaster. What's the other one? Skydiving, bungee jumping, bravery. I don't get, in those situations, I have no bravery. I think the person doing it might say, I think everybody can't say for themselves that what they do is brave, because for me, brave means I'm afraid of something and I did it anyway. So getting over my fear of flying. I was afraid to fly and I got over it. I was brave not to get on planes because they're inherently dangerous. I was brave to confront how uncomfortable the fear made me and how impossible it seemed to overcome. Okay. But there was no bravery involved getting on stage with stand-up. It just never bothered me to get on stage, which is probably why I thought to do it. Now, I don't know if it's brave of Liz Cheney to be on the January 6th committee. I'm going to say, yeah, probably. Whether she feels that she is being brave or not, it is technically brave because she is getting death threats. And people will, Donald Trump wants to rile up his what is really just like a low-key militia, to fight. He is training an army of Americans that hate America. Okay, so, and I get it. I get that Liz Cheney knew she was going to lose her primary if she kept going with this, because the people of Wyoming that vote Republican, they don't want a Liz Cheney Republican who votes with Trump's policies 92% of the time, don't forget. but they want someone who goes the extra mile and actually believes the election was stolen and other QAnon things too. Now, Liz voted for Trump in 2020, which I find shocking because, again, this is why I'm saying that I believe she never wanted the government to be overthrown, but she was willing to overlook a lot of other shit, like Trump with Putin in Helsinki. And, she is very tied to this identity of being a Republican. I've never understood that for myself. I don't really care. If the Democrats started acting like the Republicans did and trying to overthrow the government and getting into QAnon and like the fascism, I would be like, what is happening to these people? But I wouldn't be like, I can't believe I'm not a Democrat anymore. I have been my whole life. I'd just be like, okay, like, who do I vote for that's not the fascist? Just point me in that direction. Like, literally don't care about the labels. It's ridiculous.
Hi, I'm stand-up comedian and sex symbol Tig Notaro.
And I'm actor and writer Cheryl Hines.
Before Cheryl and I got into the big business of podcasting together, we were just simply friends.
And we're still friends. But now we talk about a different documentary every week on our podcast, Tig and Cheryl, True Story. We have covered everything from true crime to Britney Spears to my octopus teacher. I'm just laughing because my octopus teacher was crazy.
I found it more interesting that his son now had a stepmother, and it was an octopus. We also, Cheryl, tell stories, go on tangents, and generally make our sides hurt laughing at each other.
So whether you love documentaries or just want to hear us slowly lose our minds, check out Tig and Cheryl, True Story, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, cool.
Republicans seem to just be like very sentimental about the word Republican. Okay, anyway, so she's all tied up in that identity. She's like, I would never vote for a Democrat. And it's like, well, bitch, you're not doing half of the shit you need to do to fight fascism. Because if you don't campaign for Democrats that are running against literal fascists in the House and the Senate, then you aren't doing enough. Now, it's her right. She doesn't have to do everything. But you know what I'm saying? She's not your hero, white women. She's just not. Now, the January 6th committee thing, sure, it made her very unpopular among her base. But here's the deal. Was it brave or was it calculated? You know how comedians are always like, I'm getting canceled, and they're really not? They love saying that because it riles up their base. Liz Cheney is trying to rile up the Republicans that would vote for her. The ones left that are right-wingers but not into the tipping point of QAnon. And she's probably trying to round up some naive white women who are like, I would totally vote for her if I had to vote for a Republican. There's no world you're going to have to. Because we don't, as far as I can see, have fascists running for president in the next, I'll give it 4 years, okay? In the next the next election. I was going to say, I foresee for the next 10 years, we won't have fascists. It's like, why are you even fantasizing about that? It's like saying, well, if I had to murder someone, here's the list of people I would murder and how. It's like, why are you even thinking about that? Just, you're not going to do it, so don't even think about it. Just like white women seem to like get off on like thinking about maybe voting for Cheney. Like, when would you do that? Please tell me, when would you vote for her? So the point is, Liz knew she would become a national figure. Did you ever think about Liz Cheney before this? I didn't even know who she was. I was like, oh, is that the lesbian daughter? Because I knew that Dick Cheney had a lesbian daughter because he, during Obama's administration, really kneecapped Obama by being like, I'm for marriage equality. And I was like, oh, Obama, you don't look so good. Now you gotta do it. Because Dick Cheney's coming out in favor of it. Everybody not looks a fool, right? So I didn't really think about the Cheneys' kids. And then everyone was like, Liz Cheney, she's going to January 6th. I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh, it's not the lesbian daughter. Okay. Oh, there's another one. So now she's like a national figure. Everybody knows Liz Cheney, right? That's a win for her. Her concession speech to her primary opponent was basically a battle cry of, Abraham Lincoln lost smaller elections before and then went on to be president. I mean, she's blatantly saying, I'm going to use this to run for president. Now, even if she doesn't, my point is, she knew what she was getting into, getting onto the January 6th committee. She knew it would make her a national public figure. She's also from generational wealth, and she's wealthy on her own. So it's not the same as some young startup right-winger who is all idealistic, has terrible politics in my opinion, but at least in a general way, idealistic about how things work and, whatever. And then if they lose their primary, they got nowhere to go. But everyone who's on TV holding Donald Trump to justice by being on the Jan 6 committee, you can be fine. You can write a book. You can, so in other words, I'm not like, wow, look at all she gave up. Like she kind of just traded.
Hi, everybody. This is Todd Glass. What could I say that would make you want to give the Todd Glass Show a listen? Well, I guess you could poke around on YouTube, and if some of the stuff over there makes you laugh or my Netflix special act happy, then maybe you'll give it a listen. The only other thing I could do is make it short because it's interrupting a podcast you already love. Okay, I'm done. Thank you. Goodbye.
More local celebrity from more national. So I'm not like saying she's a horrible person that like did some terrible thing by going on the January 6th committee. I'm just saying we don't need to be like, oh my God, look how much she sacrificed. Come on, people. Do you have to be so white all the time? Now, that was just my political rant for the day. Let's just, I do appreciate her though, because that Cassidy Hutchinson chick, she was super into Trump. She was a believer. I said believer. That's what Justin Bieber calls his fans. I thought maybe you don't get that reference and you think I don't know what the word believer is, and then it has a B in it and not a V. Anyway, so she went to work for Trump after he was president. She went to work privately for him for a little while. Like this girl is up in it. And I think she was scared or maybe didn't want to give up the dream. Whatever it was, Liz Cheney being a kind of Trumpier Republican, like someone who voted with most of his policies and voted for him and probably wanted him to work out as president because these Republicans, they just want to stay in power as any party would, right? And so she was very instrumental in getting Cassidy to talk, come on board. And Cassidy was that, she was that thing, right? That first snowball that caused an avalanche of people now having to testify and are getting subpoenaed, and DOJ is looking into them. So I get it. You got to be on the enemy. You got to be on the front lines with your enemies sometimes, or political opponents. I won't call anyone an enemy, and I'm all for that. I think that's fascinating. Why can't we just talk about that? Like, oh my God, only she could have gotten Cassidy to speak. Some progressive on the Jan 6 committee was going to get Cassidy to speak. So that was cool. That's what we need her for. But other than that, don't go add some narrative that she's had some change of heart and she's going to start selling hemp bracelets on the side of the freeway. Stop it. All right, lots to talk about this week on No Fun. The rest of the episode is on Patreon only. And guess what? It is my birthday week, people. August 28th is my birthday. And all I want is for you to join the Patreon. Again, if I don't have 1,500 people on this thing, which I used to, by the end of the year, I'm taking this whole podcast away because it's too much work. So I've got almost 1,100 on the Patreon. Just need 400 more. I know there's tens of thousands of you listening out there. So would you get your ass on the Patreon? $3 a month. You get 2 full episodes a month. Private community to message with all the people that are on Patreon. No ads. And for $5 a month, you get 4 episodes a month, 1 every week. No ads. Now I'm keeping costs low. So saddle up with your credit card and hit the link in the show notes.